everyone, and welcome to this podcast. My name's Ian Quayle from IQ Legal Training, and what we're going to be doing today is exploring some issues with regard to the Building Safety Act, and I've got a great announcement in connection with a book published by the Law Society. I've been working with Andrew Butler KC from Tanfield Chambers for over a year now. Hi, Andrew. Good to hear from you again. Hope you're fitting well.
Good morning, Ian. Good to see you. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Andrew, I was just thinking there that we've been on quite a journey with regard to the Building Safety Act. And talking of journeys, the first time I think that you spent a lot of time looking at the Building Safety Act was on a journey. Do you remember where you were going and what you were doing?
Yeah, I do indeed, Ian. I was just reflecting on this the other day because it's been quite a year, and it was actually just under a year ago, about 11 months ago. I had a long haul flight with a bit of time, and I passed that time by actually starting to read into the Building Safety Act, which probably didn't make me wildly entertaining company, but it was a good opportunity just to start familiarizing myself with the provisions. And it's really amazing to think how much has happened since then. It's astonishing to think that was just 11 months ago, and how far we've come during that time.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about it, isn't it, that is the more you delve into the Act, the more complicated, the more interesting, I think, is trying to put a positive spin on things, it becomes. Because I remember you and I discussing that your first couple of readings, and then thereafter it has become, I don't know whether it's a labour of love or not, but the more you delve into it, boy, does it get complex.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, my first focus at your encouragement was Part 5 and Schedule 8. Yeah. And that was really quite unlike, excuse me, it's quite unlike any piece of legislation I've come across before, just because of the intricacy. And you're right that it required, 2 or 3 readings to, start to get my head around it. And every time I went through it, for the first few times, you just pick up on different things. It's a very complex mosaic of legislation, and of course we're still at the stage where we don't really know how it's going to work through in practice. Decisions really are only starting to be published now, and the rest is speculation.
Yeah. And the other thing about that, Andrew, is, of course, it has huge implications for transactional property lawyers and who want clarity and want to be able to say to clients, hey, look, it's safe to proceed with this leasehold property, or it isn't, there are issues. And when you've got that complexity in what is a relatively small part of the Act, it becomes a nightmare. And then I don't know what you think, but I sort of, like you, focused in on that to start with. But then when you start looking at other sections of the Act and you think about construction and you start thinking about the Building Act and the reform of the Building Act and the reform of the Landlord and Tenant Act 1985 and higher risk buildings, there's probably a sort of lifetime of research and work to be done on each of one of those topics. Never mind what we originally started looking at, which how does this impact on conveyances?
Yeah. Absolutely, and if only you and I were at the start of our careers, we might have time to get to the bottom of it all. I think that's right, and I certainly remember, when you brought my attention to this, you did so in the context of, real problems that you were encountering with your clients and colleagues, mainly in the world of conveyancing. And I think, it's fair to say that a lot of people probably weren't aware of what the Building Safety Act was doing, and a lot of people who were aware just didn't understand the provisions and found them daunting and terrifying. And a lot of what we started doing on this was about trying to provide some reassurance, trying to show to conveyancers and others affected by it that it was workable, and that a lot of it was just about managing clients' expectations as to what could and couldn't realistically be done. So I hope there's a few people who feel less fazed by it now than possibly they did then. But I mean, I think we both know that the work isn't done. There's still a lot of ignorance, a lot of uncertainty, and that doesn't reflect terribly well on the Act, it must be said.
No, it doesn't. And remember all the time that we spent with regard to the flowcharts, and you did all the heavy lifting on that with Annie, etc. But I mean, we tried to create a sort of roadmap for conveyancers to say, look, yes, the act is frightening, but here's a sort of a pathway that will enable you to deal with some of the basics to enable you to do your work as a conveyancer. And I mean, they've been really successful and really, really useful. But the time that was spent in attempting to simplify the acts for that purpose, that was quite extensive, wasn't it? And again, I have
It,
to say, you did the vast majority of the work and the heavy lifting on that, and they've been really useful to try and show conveyancers, well, look, subject to some caution and subject to scoping the retainer and being careful, there is a route that can mean you can act on a sale or a purchase.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, it's very kind of you to give me that credit. I think what we both spotted was that there was that the act is full of these sort of linear processes, which are quite
Yeah,
complicated, but are actually in some ways much more straightforwardly depicted in visual form.
yeah,
And so the aim of that was to try to break down those processes into simple, manageable images that people could just have on their desktop and follow as they were trying to carry out these sort of these difficult exercises that the Act requires. I very much hope they have been successful. I think we've had some pretty good feedback, and
yeah,
it may be that as time goes by, we'll start to think about producing some more. I mean, goodness knows
yeah,
there's enough things being introduced even now,
yeah.
bits of the legislation coming into force,
Mm.
which may well call for a similar exercise to be done.
Yeah, 5 sets of regulation, 400 pages of government guidance notes, and God knows what else. I tell you what, just as you were saying that about the flowcharts and things, I think the other thing that was really useful for me is remember the Tanfield conference, was it in June? And the fact that we
Yes,
had all your colleagues and you explaining in great detail bits of the act, and it was then I think that you think, crikey, this is such a huge piece of legislation, and
yeah,
although I've been focusing it on from a conveyancing perspective, you and your colleagues were highlighting just how expansive it is from a litigation perspective too. So that was really interesting. And I think you've got another event just looming, and I've been kindly invited to that, which is great. So thanks for that.
yeah, no, that's fine. We're looking forward to seeing you at that. The Yes, I mean we've always had a spring property event. I think it was in
Yeah,
May last
yeah.
year, and I was tasked with organising it.
Hmm.
And originally, I think we were going to have a fairly sort of miscellaneous collection of topics, but
Yeah,
it just occurred to me that there was so much concern about the BSA at this time that, in fact, dedicating the day to that topic would possibly cause a lot of interest.
yeah.
And so it proved. We called it a day with the BSA, I recall,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we covered even a whole day wasn't really enough to do much more than
Yeah,
scratch the surface. And so, how people are expecting to learn about this act with kind of hour-long seminars at the end of the working day is beyond me. So we're
absolutely.
actually, as you rightly say, we've got another one coming up on the 7th of February, BSA
Yeah.
Day 2, the sequel.
Hmm.
And we're going to be covering, some of the subjects we covered before in a little more depth, some new subjects. We've got a
Yeah.
fantastic turnout, which again is indicative of the level of interest and concern about the Act. And yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the beauty of that, Andrew, was that for the first time I met a number of your colleagues who you were able to call upon in connection with the book that the Law Society is in the process of publishing, which I'm really excited about, to be honest, because it is a practitioner's guide. It is, once again, an attempt to sort of decipher key features of the book to make life easier for practitioners. So it was brilliant that on that occasion I met a number and heard a number of the contributors who have again worked with you and the Law Society in order to publish the book, which again is exciting because I've never been involved in anything like it before, and to have people again have a deep dive into various sections of the Act for the purposes of the production of the book has been brilliant. And of course, you being
Yeah.
able to cast a sort of supervisory eye on what's done again has been a massive help. And once again, Andrew, I have to concede, you do the heavy lifting. I sort of dilly and dally on the periphery every now and again to try and,
I,
some would say cause
well,
mayhem, others would say perhaps assist.
I think you're doing yourself down, Ian, and it's
Yeah.
certainly true to say that none of this would have happened without you. I mean, so far as
Mm,
the book is concerned,
mm,
it's certainly true that the Building Safety Act fell neatly, for the most part, into Tanfield's bread and butter. We've
yeah,
already got a publication on service charges,
yeah,
and I think we're recognised as being one of the leading sets of chambers in that area. And the Building Safety Act, of course, affects service charges, but it
yeah.
affects the world of real estate much more widely than that. And
Mhm.
my own practice is more on the sort of commercial spectrum of property work, construction, and so on. So there was a lot in the Building Safety Act that we, as a chambers, felt we could contribute to, and it felt like it was a topic that was ripe for a book. And thanks to you, we got the way in with the Law Society, who were kind enough to commission us to write it. So the book, which is due to come out next month in March,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a hybrid of the input of a lot of my colleagues who have, as you say, taken a deep dive into some of the more problematic subject
Mm,
areas of the Act, mainly in the world of real estate rather than the world of construction per
yeah.
se. And then your own invaluable contributions born of your training and your experience as a conveyancer, which, dare I say, may be a little more practical than those of
Yeah,
learned counsel. But hopefully, the whole thing is going to address the day-to-day problems that practitioners are encountering, some of the problem areas. And as I say in the forward, it's quite a sort of daunting thing writing a book about an act that's so new, because there's so
yeah.
little learning on it, so few decisions, that we're feeling our way to some extent. But I hope and expect that practitioners are going to find it useful to have a reference guide like this to fall on.
Yeah, and it's quite amazing. Given, I mean, I forget how many months we've actually had to do it, but I mean, to get from zero to where we are, I think is pretty impressive. Particularly given the fact that the government keeps throwing in regulations every now and again just to keep us on our toes. I got an email this week from you saying, "Hey, everyone, remember about the new regs which came out just the other week." So
Yeah,
they keep throwing little
yeah.
surprises at us to keep us on our toes, don't they?
Yeah, well, we're at proofing stage, as you know,
Yeah,
and I'm going through my chapters, and I
me
see
too.
that when I wrote them, I said these regulations are not yet in force, and lo and
Mhm.
behold, now they are in force. So
Yeah,
things changing the whole time, and
yeah,
that too is possibly, it's a challenge for the book. I mean, I dare say, it will be taken over by events in due course,
yeah,
but it's a good framework of the law as it is now,
yeah,
and it'll be our job then to keep it up to date for the second edition.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And interesting that it is you can pre-book the book via the Law Society website. I think we got an email about that the other day. So, Andrew, first of all, I'm really excited about where the book takes us. I'm really excited also about the fact that there are further training opportunities, and I'd love to work with you again in connection with webinars, etc. That sort of feature development or feature changes or feature clarification on the law as and when we get first tier tribunal and upper tier tribunal decisions. But I think in addition to that, given the regulations, given the fact as practitioners are working more and more with transactions that involve the Act, there's plenty of opportunity to spend more time looking at the Act, looking at its changes and how its sort of evolution means that practitioners need to be kept aware of what those changes and what that evolution actually means.
I completely agree. I mean, we're very much at the beginning of this journey. I mean, the Act
Yeah.
is so radical, and the process of its introduction is so incremental that
Yes.
the landscape is going to change a great deal. And I think people in the world of real estate are still getting their heads around the implications. I don't think it's been fully absorbed and understood even now. So we're definitely at the start of a journey. But it's great to have got, I think I'm right in saying, the first book out there that brings together these disparate and complicated elements and provides practitioners with a go-to work which hopefully will address quite a lot of the problems.
Yeah. And certainly from the government's perspective, from what I hear, there's no plans or intention on repealing the Act. It is what it is. We've got to live with it and work with it. The only thing I keep thinking, Andrew, is every time I see a new set of regulations, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if Andrew's got any long-haul flights so he can sit down and look at that while he's flying at 35,000 feet and to come back to
Sadly, no exotic foreign holidays planned, Ian, or at least none far afield. So it'll be short haul at best for me in the future. So I'll probably just have to limit myself to a couple of sections, or maybe the odd schedule.
Yeah. Andrew, it's been a delight talking to you. Again, a delight working with you, and I look forward to maintaining that relationship and your colleagues at Tanfield Chambers. Again, as a plug for Tanfield Chambers, you and your colleagues have to be the go-to set for BSA-related issues, be it advice in connection with transactional work, or, and I'm sure this is going to happen, the flow of litigation that goes before lower tribunal, upper tribunal, relating to aspects of the legislation. At least all of your colleagues are sort of primed in connection with parts of the Act and able to assist practitioners, be it property litigators, conveyancers, transactional property lawyers too.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. That's obviously where we hope to position ourselves, and I think we've done okay so far, and the event next week I hope will further bolster our credentials. If I can just add to that, a plug for the hub on our website. There's a dedicated section given over to the Building Safety Act where we're putting decisions, articles, thought pieces. I know a lot of practitioners who have come across that have found that very useful. So if I can just use this as an opportunity to plug that. And finally, it would be wrong not to say thank you for actually, encouraging us to focus our attention on this piece of legislation. I mean, it came from your awareness of the difficulties that it was causing. And if we've helped to clarify the Act for some of those people that have been really troubled by it, then I'm very pleased.
No doubt about that at all. And thanks again, Andrew. Lovely to talk to you, Andrew. We'll speak soon.
Likewise,
I'll see you Wednesday.
Indeed, yeah. Look forward to it, Ian. All the best until then.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.